SABC News reporter Canny Maphanga is following the story for us, and she joins us in studio live. Canny, thank you so much for your time. So we've heard the comments from Mapisa-Nqakula spokesperson Mike Ramachoma, but wrap it up for us. There was quite a lot that Judge Portrell mentioned in her judgment. What were the key takeaways that we may not have necessarily, covered in detail?
Well, initially what the Speaker was seeking was an interim interdict pending the return of her lawyer to guide her through this process. We know that her lawyer, in papers, it was said that he would be returning on the 3rd of April, that is tomorrow. She wanted that interim interdict. She wanted her arrest to be declared unlawful, and she also wanted full access to the docket. Now, she's failed rather to spell out to the court why this matter is urgent. Even though she's deviated from those directives, there's no justifiable reason before the court as to why the matter is urgent. And then, of course, with the arrest, there's nothing that's really spelled out before the court to determine that this arrest is actually unlawful. And she was actually asking the court to give this determination before an arrest can even take place. So based on all these several grounds, and an important ground which the court noted, which has been a concern for many members of the public who have seen this case playing out, is that you're essentially trying to negotiate with a criminal justice system, basically stopping these state authorities from performing their functions, and the only reasons you're providing is your dignity, your freedom rather, and your standing in society. Well then, if the court were to say that such an order is correct, then you open up the floodgates for any suspect that is going to be subject to this criminal justice system to come to the court to halt this arrest for various reasons if they were to grant such a court order to the Speaker.
And there actually is a line in that, and I actually quoted it, where Judge Portrell says the court cannot interdict statutory authorities from exercising their statutory duties, rather, which was quite important. And then on the back of what you're saying here, with Judge Portrell says that if she does grant Mapisa-Nqakula's application, it would cause suspects to basically control the justice system. Yes,
because the criminal justice system is its own system. It has its own functions. South Africans across the country, and whoever, even foreign nationals, if they're subjected to such a system, have to be processed, arrested, then appear before the court and exercise their rights in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act and the criminal justice system. There was nothing here that spelled out why her case was unique and didn't have to follow the same procedure that every other South African follows. And that is why the court reached the conclusion that it's reached, that the application must be struck off the roll with costs.
And then the judge says that she's not uncertain about the state's case against Mapisa-Nqakula and declined to take a judicial peek at the evidence against her. Talk to me about that.
Well, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula goes to the court and states in court papers that she wants to see the full case, as she believes that the case is weak against her. You may remember that there was a raid that took place. In the papers, it's revealed that there were certain items that the sergeants that were conducting the raid were looking for. And she relates these items to that of items contained in the Section 204 statement, which she believes this case is fully based on, because it's about her tenure during her time as Minister of Defense, and that is when it is alleged that bribery had taken place. So she alleges that after that raid, the state's case rather was weakened because those items were not found in her home. And it is against that backdrop in which she made that argument. But of course, the court itself has opted not to make that determination, because we know that that will follow in the criminal justice system when that matter is processed and if it goes to trial.
But then also, Portrell mentioned that, she found that Mapisa-Nqakula had been offered the courtesy of handing herself over to the authorities, something that she says most accused are never offered. And the judge says that the state's delay in processing Mapisa-Nqakula was also a courtesy.
Yes. Well, she argues that from at least the 8th of March, there would have been knowledge about this pending probe or this pending arrest. And the court is quite correct in stating that ordinary citizens all the time go through this process. They're not given the courtesy to negotiate their handing over or negotiate when a matter can proceed. The state proceeds with the matter and finalizes it to the end. However, what we were seeing here was what was perceived to be special treatment towards the Speaker, because you're seeing a case where it needs to be processed before the criminal justice system, but it seems as if the NPA is working on the timetable of what would have been the suspect who needs to appear, which we haven't seen in the criminal justice system for ordinary people like you and I. So what precedent, or rather what legal precedent would that have set if you can now negotiate with the criminal justice system as to when you should be arrested, how you should be arrested, when you should appear, when you should have full access to the docket? I mean, these are all processes that take place within the criminal justice system, not quite as quick as you may want it to be or in the manner that you want, but there is space and opportunity for you to defend yourself through the criminal justice system without thinking that you may be quote unquote too important or have too much of a social standing in order to subject yourself to that criminal justice system.
So it seems there's no legal barrier blocking, the independent directorate from affecting the arrest, or am I wrong?
Well, what they had undertook from the time of the hearing last week was to not act until judgment was delivered. Now judgment has been delivered, and we've heard from the NPA spokesperson, Advocate Mapisa, that the wheels of justice have now been set in motion. Now, while the NPA will not disclose the date upon which we can expect for that to take place, we can expect that very soon we should see that process coming into effect, as there's nothing stopping the NPA or any of those state functions or authorities from performing their duties with respect to this matter.
Canny, thank you so much for joining us in studio. That is SABC News reporter Canny Maphanga joining us in studio and unpacking that judgment from Judge Portrell.